In Norway, Martin and his friends found some hidden treasure in a cabin in the mountains. This summoned a bunch of Nazi zombies led by Colonel Herzog, who wanted their treasure back. They chased after the group, killing them one by one. Only Martin survived, and he lost an arm to get rid of a zombie bite. He gave the zombies their treasure to calm them down before running to his car so he could finally escape. Unfortunately, now Martin is discovering that he has a coin in his pocket, so Herzog appears at his window and breaks it to grab him. Soon more zombies are jumping on his car, so Martin makes an effort to reach the keys and start the vehicle. After kicking a soldier off and headbutting Herzog, Martin finally takes off with Herzog still holding onto his window. The other zombies fall off and one of them gets his intestines stuck on some broken glass, so the car pulls them out as it leaves. On the road, Herzog keeps trying to kill Martin. At that moment, a truck appears on the other side and runs over Herzog, causing him to lose his arm inside the car. Thinking it's finally over, Martin throws the coin out the window to celebrate his victory. Meanwhile, the truck driver checks on Herzog's body and tries giving him CPR, only for Herzog to bite his tongue off. When the driver pulls back, the other zombies jump on him to kill him while Herzog picks up the coin. He puts it in the treasure box before giving his men orders to hide it. Before leaving, Herzog notices the Talvik fish logo on the truck, which brings back memories. Minutes later, Martin is dozing off while driving and almost loses control of the car, so he turns on the radio hoping it'll keep him awake. However, he only finds a documentary that makes him fall asleep anyway. The car crashes and falls down the hill. Sometime later, Martin wakes up in the hospital with his hands handcuffed to the bed. The police are there to interrogate him, but they don't believe the zombie story and blame him for his friends' deaths. The doctor explains that Martin's arm was found and reattached, but Martin is horrified to discover they've given him Herzog's arm. Martin freaks out as the arm starts moving on its own, breaking the handcuff to push the cop away. Then the hand grabs a scalpel and quickly kills the doctor. A second cop comes in to stop him, but the Nazi hand grabs him by the neck and throws him against the table. Martin keeps apologizing and swearing it wasn't him while security tackles him to the bed and a nurse sedates him. Meanwhile, in a house near the Norwegian mountains, a man is reading the newspaper when suddenly something hits the pages. He looks down and finds his wife's head before Herzog enters the room to smash his head with a hammer. Afterward, a zombie doctor brings Martin's arm and puts it close to Herzog's arm stump so the zombie powers quickly attach it. That night, the zombie army goes to the cemetery where their old teammates were buried. Herzog injects the graves with his power, but nothing happens. The doctor explains these bodies are too old and already became dust, so they need fresh ones. At that moment, a priest comes out of the graveyard chapel and is terrified to see Herzog. He runs back inside but trips and falls, giving Herzog time to catch up to him. As the people on the stained glass begin crying blood, Herzog kills the priest by hitting him with a chalice. Then he touches him to transform him into a zombie too. In the hospital, Martin wakes up after having a vision of the zombies coming to the city. He finds himself restrained to the bed and the sleeping cop outside won't come when Martin calls for help. Suddenly, a boy named Bobby appears in front of the bed. He's taken pictures of Martin's arm because he thinks it's cool and very zombie-like. Bobby's an American tourist and back in his country he's part of the Zombie Squad, a group that has been training for years waiting for the zombie apocalypse to happen. The boy has sent them the picture and Martin swears there are more zombies for them to see, but he needs to leave the bed first. When Bobby undoes the restraints and Martin can finally stand, the zombie arm throws the boy through the window. A horrified Martin goes outside and confirms the kid is dead, so he tries to do CPR. However, his zombie arm is too strong and he crushes Bobby's chest. At that moment, the cop wakes up and sees Martin holding Bobby's organs, so Martin tries running away. When the officer comes chasing after him, the zombie arm makes Martin stop by holding onto a car. Then it rips off the car's metal logo and throws it at the cop's head to kill him. Seeing a second officer coming, Martin has no choice but to break the car window and steal it to get away. Moments later, Martin hears Bobby's phone ringing in the car and takes the call. It's Daniel from the Zombie Squad, who wants to talk to Bobby. Martin explains that a zombie killed the kid and tells him everything about Herzog's army. Daniel announces his team will travel to Norway and in the meantime, Martin must find out what the zombies want. After the call is over, Daniel tells his assistants Monica and Blake about their new mission. An argument ensues because the women think it may not be real, not to mention the dangers of traveling to another country without a plan. He finally convinces them by pointing out this is what they've been waiting for their whole lives. The next day at the police station, Chief Gunga is informed of Martin's escape. The higher-ups want all the stations to get extra people and wait for orders, but Gunga complains because he doesn't have the budget for extra people. Meanwhile, the zombie squad arrives in Norway and immediately visits a hardware store to get a bunch of tools they can use as weapons. At the same time, Martin visits a World War II museum, but first he puts on fresh clothes he finds in the car. Before entering the building, he accidentally bumps into a black man and the zombie arm tries to attack him, but Martin stops it just in time. On the newspaper stand, he discovers his face is on the front page. He decides to read the article and learns that the whole country thinks he killed his friends. When he enters the museum, receptionist Glenn is also reading the newspaper and panics when he sees the criminal from the picture, so Martin has to hold him with his extra strong hand and forces him to cooperate. Glenn shows him the information he has on Herzog, who used to be a close friend of Hitler's. When Herzog and his army came to Norway, their biggest warship was attacked by English bombers in Talvik. In revenge, Hitler ordered Herzog to wipe out Talvik, but the army never made it there because the locals killed them. Martin realizes the zombies' goal is to attack Talvik to finish their mission. While Martin studies a map to find Talvik, he hears screaming outside. Looking out the window reveals that the zombies are already here killing tourists in a variety of gruesome ways. They use a person's intestines to take fuel from a bus and refill the museum's tank. Once all the tourists are dead, Herzog uses his power to transform them into zombies and recruit them into his army. After Glenn throws up at the site, Martin forces him to hide with him by pretending to be two statues. The zombies enter the museum and start destroying the displays to steal all the Nazi objects. While Herzog takes the map, a zombie sniffs Martin and Glenn but doesn't discover them. After the army is gone, the duo comes out and discovers a few zombified tourists are still around. Martin uses his special arm to rip off a woman's scalp and throw her at a car. Then he smashes a man's head against the bus and tears the heart out of a woman's chest. All the other bodies are dead and Martin closes the eyes of a dead man for dignity, not realizing his arm is activating. The guy transforms into a zombie and startles Martin, who kills him again. Realizing he has Herzog's power, Martin touches the man once more and brings him back to life. The zombie doesn't attack, meaning it's under the control of the power that made him. Suddenly a flying axe kills the zombie and Martin discovers the squad is here. Daniel is so excited about his kill that he makes his assistants take a picture of him with the body. While Monica throws up at the sight of actual death, Daniel explains they've found Martin by tracking Bobby's phone. Then Martin brings back the same zombie and Daniel says they should use this power to create an army of their own. He's done some research and tells the group about Lieutenant Stavarin of the Soviet Army. He and his soldiers were killed by Herzog during the war and their bodies should be buried around here, waiting for revenge. It's decided that Martin, Daniel, and their new zombie assistant will go looking for the graves to bring the Russian soldiers out as zombies while Glenn, Monica, and Blake must do something to slow Herzog down. In the meantime, the zombies have taken the tank from the museum and are marching through the forest, bringing down the trees in the way. Soon they find some houses and run over some kids in the backyard to kill them. Then the zombies storm into the buildings and begin killing every civilian they can find. A woman is thrown out the window just so Herzog can run over her with the tank. A girl tries to save her wheelchair-bound mother but it's too slow, so she leaves her behind for the zombies to kill. People are impaled on fences or choked with another person's intestines. When two mothers try to run away with their babies, the tank opens fire to kill them. By the time Gunga and his officers arrive at the museum, everyone is gone and there are only bodies left. They don't even have a proper forensics team, two cops have to look at the clues. Footage from the security camera shows Martin grabbing Glenn, so Gunga assumes Martin is behind all the murders. Meanwhile, Glenn and the girls are watching Herzog's army move and make a plan to slow them down by using the swamps. Glenn goes out and insults them as he throws a rock at a zombie, knocking him down before running away. Herzog immediately sends half his army after him, so Glenn uses his knowledge of the area to take them through the swamps, which makes them run more slowly. Every time a good amount of zombies get stuck in the mud, the girls throw a bomb to blow them up. Some creatures manage to grab Glenn, but he takes off his jacket to escape and runs faster to reunite with the rest of the team. Once he's safe, the girls throw their last bomb and finish killing this half of the army. A furious Herzog makes his men retaliate. They open fire and the trio has to start running while dodging the attacks. After a few explosions, Herzog sees nothing but smoke and assumes the team is dead, so he and his army leave to continue to terrorize towns on their way to Talvik. In the car, the zombie assistant starts puking, so Martin makes him put his head out the window like a dog. By the time night falls, the vehicle gets stuck in the mud. They need something to create traction, so they put the zombie under the car and run over him to finally get it moving again. The zombie dies, but Martin just brings him back to life again regardless of his new injuries. At the police station, Gunga learns that the special forces aren't coming, so he decides he'll take care of Martin with the few officers he has to prove they're heroes. Moments later, Martin's team makes it to the area where the Russian army died. It would take too much time to dig them out one by one, but luckily Martin's arm starts reacting on its own. The zombie assistant grabs his head in pain as the arm punches the ground, sending out its power in a bright wave. Soon the Russian army is coming out of the ground in their new zombified bodies. Lieutenant Stavarin approaches Martin, and to his shock, he calls him master. In the morning, Herzog and his army make it to Talvik, where Daniel and Martin are already waiting. They reveal they've already evacuated the town before Stavarin comes out with all his soldiers, who still aren't enough to outnumber the Germans. Noticing his superior numbers, Herzog sends his men out to fight. The armies collide and a vicious battle begins as zombies keep killing each other. Stavarin is an amazing warrior and nobody can land a hit on him, so he starts making his way toward the tank while bringing down anyone who tries to stop him. At that moment, Gunga arrives with his officers, so Herzog gets off the tank and sends it after them. The cops see the tank coming and try to leave, but they didn't park well and now their cars are blocking each other. Only Gunga and half of the cops manage to get out before the tank runs over their cars to destroy them. On the battlefield, Stavarin and Herzog finally meet and start fighting each other. Stavarin appears to be stronger and throws Herzog against a building, but Herzog dodges his punch before it can finish him. Meanwhile, the Nazi doctor is filling up his fallen soldiers with hay to send them out to fight again. If someone is missing a limb, he replaces it with random tools. Daniel and Martin are helping the Russians, but Daniel leaves to investigate where the tank is going. The zombies try surrounding him, however Daniel has been training for this and quickly brings them down using hammers. When the priest is about to attack too, the zombie assistant tackles him to defend his master. Gunga and the surviving officers hide inside a house, where they watch Martin kill zombie after zombie in a variety of ways, like pulling out their intestines and throwing them on the power lines to electrocute them. A zombie almost catches Martin by surprise, but at that moment Glenn and the girls show up and bring the creature down with a shovel. After a few more punches, Stavarin manages to bring Herzog down, but when he's about to kill him, a soldier hits Stavarin first with an axe. Then Herzog gets a pickaxe and crushes Stavarin's head. The Russians are clearly losing the fight, so Monica tells Martin they must concentrate their efforts on killing Herzog because he's controlling the rest of the army. Martin runs to tackle Herzog and they burst through a house wall. Then they start fighting each other, but Herzog is clearly stronger and easily throws Martin through the ceiling and walls. In the kitchen, Martin grabs random tools to defend himself, yet Herzog still grabs him and burns his face on the stove. Outside, Glenn and the women keep on fighting, but no matter how many zombies they kill, the German soldiers just keep coming. Seeing this as the end, Glenn is about to make a big confession only to be killed by a zombie before he can finish. While Blake and Monica are surrounded, Daniel manages to get inside the tank and starts fighting the two drivers. He manages to defend himself pretty well at first, but the zombie is still stronger and pushes him against the wall to stab him. In the house, Herzog beats Martin up a little more before he starts choking him. However, since the drivers are fighting Daniel, the tank loses control and crashes into the house, picking both men up. The zombie assistant kills the priest with a rock, but his celebration is interrupted when the tank runs over him. Daniel manages to push the zombie back and hits him with a hammer, killing him by pushing a bullet into his head. On top of the tank, Herzog and Martin continue to fight. This time Martin gains the upper hand and starts beating Herzog up, but unfortunately he falls off the tank when Daniel finally stops it. Herzog approaches Martin and gets ready to kill, only for Daniel to activate the tank's cannon and blow Herzog's head up. The zombies on the field that are about to kill the girls instantly lose their power and fall to the ground like normal bodies. Afterward, the zombie squad says goodbye to Martin and everyone leaves. Gunga and his officers come out of the house and wonder how they'll explain all these bodies, which they'll have to pick up one by one. Sometime later, Martin makes it to the cemetery and finds his dead girlfriend's grave. He digs her out and uses his power to revive her. Now they can kiss and do the dirty in the car while the zombie assistant watches from afar. In Talvik, the Nazi doctor finds Herzog's head, which opens his eyes. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.